Hey Edward. Did you hear the news today?
No, Abe. What happened?
CNBC reported that the US Treasuries are junk, and the dollar is headed for a total collapse.
Holy cow. Why did they say that?
Because the US government is paying its bills with borrowed money.
What do you mean?
I mean that the Fed is buying its own treasuries with money that is created out of thin air. They have given it a fancy name hoping most people won't figure it out.
What do they call it?
Quantitative easing.
I have heard that. What exactly does that mean?
It means we are printing the money to pay our bills because we don't have enough in our coffers to cover our debts. It's like having bills left to pay, even though your paycheck is spent. They say it's the only thing keeping the economy going, and the minute they stop, it's all going to collapse.
I can't believe it.
It's true. Ben Bernanke, the Fed chairman, said we are headed for a fiscal cliff at the end of the year, which will cause our credit rating to get downgraded.
Fiscal cliff? That sounds bad.
Well, it certainly is not good.
What does that mean?
It means the US credit score could be dropping, kind of like mine.
Ouch. Sorry to hear that.
In the end, the quantitative easing will weaken the US dollar, which will put pressure on commodity prices and fuel inflation, and that will force the Fed to raise interest rates. When rates go up, we won't be able to keep it going.
Are you for real?
Yes, I am being completely real. When you understand that zero interest and quantitative easing is the only thing propping up our phony economy, it means Ben Bernanke is just buying time. Bottom line, it means we gotta get out of the dollar now, before it's too late.
So all that money creation and spending must be really adding up.
Safe to say the US debt is astronomical and climbing. In 2000 it was $5.6 trillion. In 2010 it was $13.5 trillion, and by 2016 the US government predicts the US debt will be more than $20 trillion.
So what does that mean to me?
It means they are slashing the buying power of your savings, your retirement, and your kids' college fund. It is taking more dollars to buy everything: gas, food, clothes, housing, everything. And to make matters worse, it keeps raising our country's debt to the point where Congress has to keep raising the limit we can borrow up to, like raising the limit on your credit card again and again.
Are you saying that the US debt is like a giant credit card?
Yes, gargantuan really. And when the US debt is greater, the payments on the debt are higher, and we can no longer make the payments on our debt, which is why the US government has to keep printing the money to stay afloat. If you and I printed the money to pay our bills, we would go to jail for counterfeiting.
That doesn't seem right.
I know.
So why is the government spending more money than it has?
Because it can. It has been overspending for years. Just like people with too many maxed out credit cards and no savings account. This is nothing new. Ronald Reagan said it best.
What did he say?
President Reagan said that we, as individuals, can live beyond our means by borrowing, but only for a limited period of time. Why then should we think that collectively as a nation, we are not bound by that same limitation? In other words, we can't spend like this forever, but it's hard to see a way out.
So what can we do to protect ourselves against all this debt and money printing?
We can buy gold.
Really? Why does buying gold protect us?
Because every time they do the quantitative easing, each dollar becomes worth less, meaning it takes more dollars to buy an ounce of gold, along with everything else that we buy. That is why when the dollar goes down in value, the price of gold goes up. Remember when I said the US debt was $5.6 trillion in the year 2000? Well, gold was $272 an ounce back then. And when the debt reached $13.5 trillion in 2010, gold was $1,421 per ounce. That is a 500% increase in only 10 years. Right now, gold is over $1,500 an ounce. Can you imagine what gold will be worth in 2016 when the debt reaches $20 trillion?
Wow, a lot I'd say.
Yes, a lot.
But that can't go on forever. Where is this all headed?
Some economists are saying that the US dollar will ultimately collapse, because it is a fiat currency.
What does that mean?
It means that the dollar is not backed by gold or silver. Most fiat currencies last around 75 years. The dollar is already older than that.
You are scaring me.
You should be scared. As long as they can create money out of thin air, without any limitations, they will. But they can't make more gold. That's why it is protection. That's why it holds its value and secures the buying power of our long-term funds. That's why they call it a precious metal. Got it?
Got it. What do you recommend I do now?
Well, don't be like a deer in the headlights. You gotta take action. The smart investors are diversifying their portfolios and adding real gold. It makes sense to protect our long-term savings in gold until someone figures out how to get us out of this pickle. Trade your paper dollars in for gold.